remember a place called the Party House in Halifax, a bar, downtown Barrington Street. You remember the Party House?
Yes.
The Party House existed for less than 1 year. Back in 2002, I decided to visit the Party House on a Sunday evening. The reason that I was there is because me and 14 other would-be amateur stand-up comics had just taken a 2-week stand-up comedy workshop at Dalhousie University. So we arrive at the Party House, and we are expecting to be entertained by whoever's going to take the stage. So about 10 minutes before the show is about to start, our mentor, his name is Guy, comes up and said, "All right, who's going up first?" I beg your pardon? Who's going up first? Who's going up in general? We had no idea that we were supposed to perform stand-up comedy in 10 minutes. So you can imagine how much material we had. So I proceeded to the nearest bathroom with the game plan that if there is a window that opens, I'm gone. Because I didn't want to be seen leaving out the front door. So I was in there for 5 minutes, no window. Finally, I came back out and discovered that 8 people were left out of the 15, including me. What I also discovered is there's a good chance that those other 7 never intended to do stand-up comedy in the first place. There's a saying, you may have heard this before, Jerry Seinfeld actually said at one of his comedy DVDs, that the #1 fear in the world above death is public speaking. So what that means is that if you're at a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy. I'm here to tell you that stand-up comedy is about 5 levels above public speaking. So when these 15 people heard that they were going to be performing in 10 minutes with no material, in all honesty and in all fairness, I'm surprised that 15 didn't leave. But 8 of us stayed. So then the new discussion becomes, again, who's going up first? I made the decision that if you're going to conquer a fear, you have to face it head on. So I proceeded, while they're still debating over who's going up first, I proceeded to go up to the stage and grab the mic. And I told what I believe is probably the best joke I'll ever tell in my life. To dead silence. So I proceeded to tell the second best joke I've ever told in my life. Dead silence. Finally, the streams of sweat are coming down my face, and I realized that this stand-up comedy thing is harder than I thought it was. So finally, Guy calls me over to the corner of the stage and he says, "Idiot, the mic's not on." The reason I bring this up is because so many people today are walking around without the mic turned on. The company instituted this program called POP. Anybody want to guess what POP stands for? Any guesses? No?
About performance.
It is about performance. Produce or perish. So we're each taking $41 a week out of the business. So as the story goes, he approached me after a month and said, "You know what, this whole business thing isn't for me. I want to go skiing in Whistler and then I want to travel the world." Which, for the record, that's what he's doing now. So he's living his dream. He approached me and said, "I want to get out of the business." So anybody want to guess what went through my mind at the second he said that?
$82.
All I can think of is yes! $82 a week for quarter. That was how I got started in business. All of a sudden, the things that I'm doing today, 13 years later, were starting to happen because of that newspaper. But probably more important than that is I moved out to Alberta back in 1996. I went and had an interview for a job with a Fortune 500 company. I worked for Toshiba Canada for 5 years. I applied for a job with Toshiba. I went out there and I looked at this little ad in the paper, the smallest ad in the entire paper, and I went and applied for this job. And I was applying amongst 177 different people. There were 177 applicants for this job. Fortune 500 company, 38th largest company in the world at the time. To me, that was a tremendous opportunity. And obviously, when you start realizing these little efforts, they all lead towards something. I know now that that's a big part of my resume and my credentials. I didn't necessarily realize that then. But the reason I bring all this up, this whole effort equals reward, is all that work I did with that paper lasted about a year. I ran the paper for a year. I left the paper with about $8,000 worth of debt, partly because of my $41 a week and assuming my partner's debt whenever he left the business. But what was the result? When I sat across from a general manager at a Fortune 500 company, 6 months later, applying for this job with this global giant, he ultimately decided to hire me. So I, as an inquisitive person who has to learn from past experiences, said, why did you decide to hire me? Okay, so I want you guys, in taking away that whole thing, to remember two things. Very first thing is what I've been saying all along. It sounds so rudimental and so small, but to me it's probably the biggest thing that I want you to take away is peak performers do what nobody else will. Second thing I want you guys to take away